Welcome to another episode of I Wonder, Doctor.
Today I'd like to talk about how arteriosclerosis begins with an injury to the artery.
I guess I've got to begin with arteriosclerosis because I barely know what it is. I can barely pronounce it.
Well, it's hardening of the arteries, or more significantly, the kind of partial or complete blockage of that artery that can occur from that initial injury to that artery.
Yeah.
And that can lead to stroke and heart attack. So this is a big deal, and it's epidemic in the Western world. But let me tell you one of the things that causes it. It's consistently elevated levels of insulin. We know that for several ways. One of them is in the laboratory. If you give an IV drip into an artery of salt water, nothing's going to happen, no matter how long you do it.
Yeah.
If you drip an elevated level of insulin into another artery, that is going to develop arteriosclerosis. We know that excessive levels of insulin sustained over time injure the arteries.
Yeah.
And we know it from diabetics because diabetics are notorious for getting into arteriosclerosis and having all kinds of blockages of their arteries. So we know that this is what's so.
Right, and type 2 diabetics produce plenty of insulin. In fact, they're constantly and frequently producing more than they should.
Exactly. That's the paradox of diabetes. The majority of diabetics, for a long period of their lives, are producing an excessive level of insulin.
Yeah.
And thus they're prone to getting arteriosclerosis, among other things.
Yeah.
So, how do you get the elevated levels of insulin? By eating elevated levels of simple carbohydrates and sweets. That's the main way.
Yeah.
Because, of course, insulin is needed to get the excessive glucose that goes into the blood out of the blood and into the cells. And this is occurring molecule by molecule, so you're not necessarily feeling it over time. But I can tell you, do yourself one of the greatest favors you can on this planet and reduce or eliminate simple carbohydrates and sweets.
Right, I'm in my 20s and I'm chugging down soda pop or whatever. I'm doing this over and over and over again. I drink the soda pop, I dump a bunch of sugar into my arteries, my body pumps in a bunch of insulin. It's increasing my risk of this, but I don't know it. I barely feel it. In fact, I probably feel high from the sugar.
Right, exactly.
It's a slow burn here.
You got it. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And so many things in medicine, these things occur at subtle levels for a long period of time, and by the time you wake up to it, when you got partial blockage of an artery or you got hypertension or something, there's been a lot of water under that bridge.
Yeah.
But it is simplified if you can really eat a nutritious diet that's very low in simple carbohydrates. And there's one other thing. The biological stress response, the fight or flight response, causes elevated levels of glucose in your blood because it's a rocket fuel, great for fighting the saber-toothed tiger. Those are produced by the high hormonal output of adrenaline and cortisol. But they amount to the same thing. You put that glucose level up, you're going to need your internal insulin to handle it. Moral of that story is improve your ability to respond to the stress in your life and not get so bent out of shape.
So if I'm sitting in a traffic jam and I'm flipping out,
Yeah.
my body thinks something horrible is about to happen, and it does that process that you just named, which amounts to eventually me pumping a bunch of insulin into my bloodstream.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So improve your skills with your own emotions, with your own mind, and how you respond to the stress in your life. It's a great achievement anyway. Everything gets more interesting and more fun and more mellow and less insulin floating around in your blood.
Got it. Thanks.
You're welcome.
There are more videos in this series available in our weekly school. Click to join. It's free.